Hey, before this video starts, I'm going to shout out my own game I'm working on. It's an RPG called Vanguard. Look at it, check it out on Steam. I have stuff in my social medias about it, link in the description. It's a character-focused narrative where the main protagonists interact with the world around them and grow from it. Combat is also engaging, customizable, where your skills reflect what equipment you have. So if you're interested about it, check out the links below. It's on Steam, wishlist it, go to my social media, help support me, or not, whatever. Enjoy the video. There are times when the stars align that a piece of media is crafted with such care, such consideration, and such ambition that it is able to become synonymous with the genre in which it was created for. With RPGs, for example, it is possible, though narrow, that one can break the conventions of what it means to be a role-playing game, and entice its audience with engaging characters, tactile combat, and a rich, engrossing world to get lost in. And Sea of Stars is not one of them. But, it's pretty cool. I think it's neat. Sea of Stars is clearly a passion project that shows its care and consideration for the genre, and while it pays homages to RPGs, it struggles to show the full potential of any of its genre's unique aspects. Sea of Stars has a beautiful visual world to get lost in and explore where each area is unique, and almost seems like the artists are just flexing on their mastery of pixel art, while the soundtrack completely captures the area or moment you're experiencing, with Eric Brown getting a notable mention to how varied and immersive the tracks in this game can be, with each song getting up to 3 variations, with the day, night, or bardcore version you can hear in the pub, with the total OST being over 200 tracks? Wow, that's a lot! This also goes to without saying that Mitsuda's guest tracks are also impressive, with more of a quiet, somber tone for a majority of his track. Mitsuda, of course, being known for his impressive composition in many famous RPGs, the most famous one being Arc Rise Fantasia. He also worked on Chrono Trigger, I guess. Unfortunately, as much of Sea of Stars' art and music can help build the world you're exploring, it feels like it has to do much of the heavy lifting for traversing the cumbersome path that is its stories. The opening, which was clearly edited to showcase combat and then backpedal with the backstory for our protagonists, does have a lot of interesting ideas and world-building potentials, but it really struggles when to show its hand to the player and showcase very important features of its world. It almost seems like the developers created characters or areas but didn't know how to fit them into the narrative of the world, and just wanted the players to not question any of it. I also found myself lost on what I was doing in the story. There were so many fetch quests or level of obfuscation to reach my next destination or goal. It really hurt the game's pacing. At one point you have to turn off a machine in the sky that's blocking your Solstice powers from working. Okay, got it. To do that, you have to go through 6 or 7 areas/dungeons, comb through a desert, break into a laboratory, get hunted by Daffy Duck, and destroy an ancient religion before you can even get to the device that allows you to access the machine. And no, I didn't stutter. You fight Daffy Duck. The game is also obsessed with giving the characters prophecies, with most of them being too vague where the player will immediately forget about it, or so on the nose that it will just tell the player what an upcoming story beat will be. Like, X will be your next party member, or Y will eat a big sandwich. Which could be interesting themes with the characters fighting fate, but none of them question it or try to fight it. The highlight of all these foibles coming together is at the end of Act 2, where your team doesn't know how to progress, and one of your party members gets a glimpse of the future on what they need to do to progress. They otherwise would have no knowledge of this. They then sail halfway across the world to a secluded island that reaches a sky tower that's been completely inaccessible the entire game, where it's then that Valerie realizes that she can use her lunar power to create a water bridge to reach the Sky Islands, where godlike giants live there and can grant the party access to the titular Sea of Stars, where none of this is questioned or explained to the player at any point. These omnipotent giants and their city are really crucial to the plot, but there's no exposition given to them. The Sea of Stars, which your party is dying to get to and scrambling around the world to be given access to by these giants, and at no point does any of them question, hey, I know we've been traveling around the world desperately trying to get access to the Sea of Stars, but what is that? This seems pretty important. Your party, mostly Zale and Valerie, have little or no agency to question anything around them, and it makes it hard to be invested in their adventures. Zale and Valerie initially come off as interesting characters, children that were taken from their homes to train in isolation for 10 years, emerging as warriors of fate to fight eldritch abominations from the depths of hell. Great concept, but poor execution. They both come off as bland with no spice or personality. They have no interesting traits, quirks, or flaws. They both respond generically to any situation with nothing that separates them from one another. I'm surprised that the game gave the faux option to have one as a main character. Even the unique dialogue each character gets for being the protagonist seems non-specific. Thankfully, the other party members are interesting enough to keep you somewhat engaged on what's going on. Especially Garl! Garl's a great character. He's somebody who understands how unimportant he may be in the grand schemes of things. He's just a normal guy, but he refuses to let his friends journey on without him. He's optimistic, resourceful, passionate about helping those around him. Every time a scene takes place with Garl on stage, I immediately perk up to see what he's gonna do. It's just a shame that the amount of passion wasn't poured into the Dragonists. Lastly, the combat. I know it's been talked about before, but for what it's worth, I think the concept of combat is interesting. Your MP pool is low, but you recover it quickly, emphasizing the player to burst down multiple enemies and recover it with basic attacks to end the battle, with enough resources for the next. I think the lock system is brilliant, and surprised other games haven't used similar systems like this before. Hitting enemies with the correlated element will remove a lock, weakening the next ability, with the reward for removing all locks to be the enemies to skip their turn entirely. This is great at making every battle engaging and preventing the player from dumping all of their attacks in one enemy at a time. Although, if you expend your MP at the wrong time, you won't have enough to stop an enemy's attack if they have a lot of locks on them. It's an interesting push and pull mechanic. Thankfully, you have insane recovery power in a plethora of party restoring HP and MP items. I think ultimates are a little unnecessary as you'll only get them for bosses, and I'd rather have an extra skill in lieu of that. Despite that, the combat is crazy easy with the idea of your stats not really mattering. Or to say that your stat increases from level up and gear have a minimal impact on the damage you deal and take. I went through the entire game without any weapons or armor and only noticed a difference near the third act. In fact, I was able to beat some bosses without taking any damage at all. I think Sea of Stars has many interesting ideas that allow it to draw the player in, but quickly fizzles out when it has trouble executing on those ideas. I don't think it's a bad game, just one that needed refinement at its core to truly shine. If you're interested in this, pick it up. If you're looking for something meatier in the same vein, check out Chrono Trigger, or maybe its better version of Arc Rise.